Hi guys, so I think it's safe to say over the last 10 months of using the Slapchop painting technique, yeah, my painting certainly has, well, improved no end. And yeah, I think I can safely say over this last sort of 10 months, there's probably about 10 sort of top tips I would give to anyone sort of starting out, yeah, this sort of style of painting. And yeah, let's go through them and, well, see if we can improve your painting. So just before I do start, I just want to make sure that you're all aware that this purely is the ramblings of an old man, and yeah, you make your own judgment up on whether or not you think these tips are any good or not. And I also want to talk about health and safety on this channel. Yeah, don't take what I do as the way of doing it. Yeah, you take your own sort of, well, precautions and do things correctly. Yeah, this was something I did obviously a long time ago, burning little miniature figures that I'd recasted, and yeah, well, let's say no more on that. So yeah, you all take the precautions you need to take. I do take some, sometimes I don't and forget and all the rest of it. Anyway, enough of that nonsense, let's crack on. So first tip I would say is this technique works best when you've got miniatures with, well, lots of detail. And as you can see, these miniatures by White Angel Miniatures, yeah, certainly hit that bill there. Full of definition, detail, and well, just look awesome. So I will say though guys, this video is sponsored by White Angel Miniatures, who reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in painting up a few of their miniatures in a video. And obviously I said yes, because as I say, these are just awesome looking miniatures. So all the links you need to check them out are down below guys. They've obviously got My Mini Factory, Instagram, Facebook, there's a Discord channel and a Patreon page as well. So you can pay a monthly amount and, well, you receive obviously their monthly miniatures, which is just great. So I've picked out 3 and I obviously went on my 3D printer, printed them out. And again, this is another way you can find out how good a model maker is in their supports. And these ones, they just peel off so nice, so easy. And as I say, this really does sort of show a good sign of a model maker when they put a lot of effort into the supports, because obviously not only do they come off nice and easy, it also means they hardly leave any sort of mark on the miniature, which is great. So there's no sort of clean up or tidy up afterwards. So these obviously have been cleaned in IPA, and so my little tub there's got some warm water. Not that they probably needed it, as I say, these just peeled off a treat. And then there they are, all ready to well, to paint up. And this is where I would say we come to tip number 2. Over the last sort of years or so, I've been using all kinds of primers, and while they sort of generally do the same thing, this one by the Colour Forge certainly is the best, as well. It purely is a matte black, even though I've tried loads of primers that have said they're matte black. Yeah, they've always had a bit of a shine or a sheen to them, so the results I get aren't too bad. But I say, this one by the Colour Forge purely is a matte black. It goes on a treat, and I say when it dries, it is just gorgeous. And there is a link down below to, well, where I get my my matte black primer paint from. And I think this is also one of the other sort of main things that I've changed with over sort of the past year or so. When I first started out, I was buying the cheapest of the cheap stuff. And whilst it kind of did the job, yeah, you can start to notice a difference in buying better materials when you do start improving in your painting. So that's probably another sort of thing to sort of be aware of. Yeah, start off nice and cheap just to make sure you like this hobby, and then yeah, start investing more money into things. So as you can see, yeah, these are a perfect, lovely matte black and ready, well, for the next stage, which is good old dry brushing. And here's my trusty textured dry brush palette, the thing that I never knew I needed until I had one, and I just can't live without it. And leading on from buying better stuff, yeah, brushes. Again, when I first started, I would buy the cheapest of brushes. I mean, we're talking like a couple of quid for like a pack of about 10. And again, they used to do the job, but as you get better, you do need to start using better equipment to, well, to continue to keep getting better. So I've got this lovely Artist Opus faux hammer essentials set. Again, there will be a link in the descriptions, guys. Go check this out. And it all comes in this lovely wooden box, which is just awesome. So you might have briefly seen there this dampening pad. Again, this is something I've never really used before. Started using it recently, and yeah, it does improve things. So that's why this is now another one of the little tips I'm going to include here. As much as this is called a dry brush technique, yeah, having the brush a little bit moist and wet does improve the look. So basically you don't get the sort of chalky look It's a much nicer dry brush effect. And then tip number 5 has to be my textured dry brush palette, as yeah, this just again makes things so much simpler. Being able to load the brush up, brush off most of the paint, being able to see exactly how much is on there, because obviously we can test it on the dry brush palette, and then we know when we go to the miniature it's got just the right amount on there, and we're not going to rather coat the model fully in the paint, which is obviously the last thing we want to do, as we have to take it all the way back to how it looked before, or there's not enough on there. So yeah, the textured dry brush palette really is a bit of a game changer, as it just makes things simpler, and yeah, you're so much more confident when you do the dry brushing, knowing that yeah, you're going to get great results. And this leads us on to tip number 6, which is something I've only just sort of recently started doing, and that is when you do the dry brushing, try and do circular motions, as again this just gets a nicer even sort of dry brush look, rather than sort of streaks or straight bits. Yeah, where possible, if you can do circular motions. Obviously it is difficult sometimes in little nooks and crannies where, well, you can't even really go side to side. But yeah, circular motions are the best way to go. And again, I've only just recently started doing this, and the results are, yeah, definitely looking better than before. Okay, so we primed the miniatures in black, dry brushed grey. Now we're going to do the dry brushing, same sort of method as we've just been doing, and we're going to do it in the white. And this is the bit I really love doing, because when you do this, it really shows all the definition in the miniature. And as I was saying earlier, these miniatures by White Angel Miniatures, yeah, really are just awesome. Lots of definition, lots of character, great poses, and I say it's all this definition in the miniature where the slap chop sort of painting technique really does shine, and makes things look awesome. Which is again, which is really good, because when I first started painting miniatures, I used to kind of prefer miniatures that didn't have all these details, because I found them a lot easier to paint. Obviously my painting skills, technique and all the rest of it a few years ago, yeah, to say it was pants would be quite an understatement. Yeah, it was diabolical. So yeah, I hardly ever painted miniatures, purely because I didn't like it, hated the results, didn't enjoy the journey, and yeah, there was nothing about it I liked. Whereas say now, yeah, I really am looking for more miniatures that have more definition, because that's where the speed paints and all this dry brushing really works so well. So yeah, and in the past I'd have been frightened of these kind of miniatures, whereas now these are the ones that I really want to paint. And talking of paint, this is where I use the Army Painter speed paints as well. I just think they're fantastic. There's a huge range of them and they look great. So as you can see here, I painted the lids. So this obviously makes it easy to see at a glance exactly what the colours are when they're all sort of like in their little pot holders. But the other main reason for this is sometimes they are different from, well, the picture. So as you can see, this one, this Fire Drake, is quite a lightish colour, but actually it goes on very dark over the slap chop painting technique. So yeah, very worth doing this. Takes a little bit of time, but then you can see exactly how they look before you put them on your miniatures. And here's the miniatures all ready and raring to go. Yeah, I love the little look of the grayscale look, and say this really does show off all their lovely definition. And yeah, now time to start painting them. And again, this painting technique is just so simple, so easy. Well, I can do it, which really does sort of show a lot. Yeah, it is a case of keeping within the lines, painting within the numbers, all that kind of malarkey, as you don't want to go over areas that aren't the colour you're painting them, because obviously it will affect the cover of the paint that then goes over the top. So yeah, take your time, enjoy this bit, and yeah. So as you can see, I am going to be painting all three at once. And this is going to be tip number 8. Yeah, batch painting. So if you've got a nice sort of full squad you want to paint up, yeah, definitely do them all at once. As obviously you use the sort of the paint you're using on one of them. When that miniature is done, you can then crack on, use the same paint for the next one. So there's no messing about, cleaning your brush, changing all the rest of it. Yeah, just crack on and do this. And the other reason this helps is by the time you finish sort of painting all of them and you're back to the first one, the paint has dried, which yeah, is awesome, and then you can just crack on and carry on. So yeah, definitely batch painting is the way to go if you've got lots to do, and obviously for speed and all the rest of it. Okay, so one thing I will say about the Army Painter speed paint and the Citadel contrast paints, and well, any of the other sort of ones that I have tried, you will find some definitely work better than others, and by that I mean how they sort of look. In sort of the nooks, the crannies, the highlights, the edges, all the rest of it. Some paints can go on and look, well, kind of like normal paints, and that's typically what I find with the metallic paints. But yeah, with some of the paints as well, yeah, they can look a little bit flat, and I say normally when you put these speed paints on, you get that lovely look of sort of the dark areas looking darker, the mid-range areas looking mid-range, funnily enough, and then the highlight areas, well, you know what I'm going to say, yeah, highlighted. So that will be tip number 9, is you will probably find you'll have your favourite paints. As in, I've got about 9 different greens, but I probably only ever use about 3 of them, just because they're my favourite greens, as in when I put them on, they really do work the best. So yeah, tip number 9, find your favourite paints to use, and yeah, just keep on using them. So it really didn't take long at all to get all 3 of these painted, and I say certainly enjoyed painting them, because again, all these tips I've just sort of said, they all come together and work really well. And yeah, I'm using my favourite paints. I've got a lovely bit of dry brushing underneath, which really makes these speed paints, well, really rocks them to the next level and makes them look absolutely awesome. I say these miniatures by White Angel are just lovely to look at, and yeah, it will certainly look good on any kind of board game. So yeah, guys, definitely go click the links down below, check them out, as they do have quite a variety of these sort of miniatures, and yeah, they all just look fantastic. As you may have seen, these miniatures are on bases, so yeah, I've kept them on the bases rather than using my usual sort of clear bases. And I think all 3 have come out, yeah, really well. Really pleased with how these are looking. Yeah, great looking miniatures. So yes, talking about the bases, just going to do a little bit to those. So we've got to obviously pull these off. These have obviously just been kept on with some good old white tack onto my little paint pot holders. If you want to download these paint pot holders and 3D print them yourself, they are on my Patreon page, as well loads of other sort of 3D sort of printed bits that I've made or used or adapted or all the rest of it. Yeah, check out my Patreon page and you'll be able to find out more details and all that stuff. So to finish off these miniatures, I'm just going to add a good old bit of the old fake grass. So I've got my little pot here. There's about 3 or 4 different sort of shades of grass in there, as well as little bits of cork, and there's even little stones in there. So I'm using a good old PVA glue as well. We don't need to use anything expensive here. I'm just using an old brush just to, well, brush it around, move it a bit. So this glue, it does take a long time to dry, but we have time. So yeah, just put it around, and then I sort of just generally dip the miniatures into the grass, as well as picking up bits of the grass and just sort of chucking it on, really, just to try and get it right up in there, in between the legs, feet, everywhere else. And yeah, there we go. So very simple, but once it dries, yeah, effective, and well, I love the look of it. Okay, so there was one last tip to say, and well, this is quite an important one, I think, and this tip is to have fun. And the reason I say this is because this is a hobby, this is a way to escape from sort of real life, your woes and all the rest of it, and just sort of get into something that's, well, enjoyable, takes you away, and yeah, again, have fun. So that's the main thing I can say here. I say I'm really pleased with how these came out. Absolutely love the look of these miniatures by White Angel. And yeah, I'm pleased with how I painted these. I say nice and simple. Obviously I could now go on and do some more edge highlighting, but yeah, again, just for general tabletop readiness, Slapchop painting technique is the way to go, as it does get your miniatures from being grey to a stage where, yeah, I think they look pretty good, and I think we should see them again in all their glory. So as you can tell, I love adding smoke and light effects, and yeah, the light effect, a simple little bulb here, different light colours on it you can change, nothing fancy, about £7 off Amazon, so that was pretty cool. And the smoke machine is this, it's by Costronica. I'll leave a link down below, guys. Absolutely awesome, love this thing, have been using it now for, I don't know, quite a few months, and yeah, it's just gorgeous. So there's a variety of smoke you can have it in it. The one that I'm currently using is like a heavy one, which is great because then when you put it down on the board, it, well, as the name implies, it's heavy, it settles on the board and it moves around. And the great thing is it comes with remote control, making it a lot easier to, well, turn off and on when I am trying to sort of do some filming, which is just pretty awesome. So yeah, these miniatures, again, absolutely love how they look, really pleased how I painted them. And yeah, guys, go check out White Angel Miniatures, link down below, well, several links down below to, well, everywhere you can go and see these, yeah, these fantastic miniatures. Okay, so I want to thank White Angel Miniatures for sponsoring this video and obviously sending me these little miniatures, because they are just awesome. I also want to thank all my lovely patrons and Chaos Cards, as well as the Colour Forge, for helping support the channel. It really does mean so much. There's another video on the screen, guys. Give that a click. Go and see more of what I do. And if you're new here, like, share, subscribe, leave some comments down below, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.